German submarine U-530 was a Type IXC/40 U-boat of Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine during World War II. She was laid down at the Deutsche Werft in Hamburg on December 8, 1941 as Yard Number 345, launched on July 28, 1942 and commissioned on October 14, 1942 with Captain Lieutenant Kurt Lang in command, who led her in 6 patrols. Lang was replaced in January 1945 by Oberleutnant zur See Otto Wermuth, who led her to surrender in Argentina on July 10, 1945, 2 months after the end of World War II in Europe. The submarine's voyage to Argentina led to various legends, apocryphal stories, and conspiracy theories. These allege that it and/or U-977, which surrendered on August 17, 1945, might have sank the Brazilian cruiser Bahia, transported escaping Nazi leaders, such as Adolf Hitler, somehow alive, and/or Nazi gold to South America, and/or voyaged to Antarctica. The U-boat and its crew were transported to the United States, where the former was sunk by torpedo on November 28, 1947. German Type IXC/40 submarines were slightly larger than the original Type IXCs. U-530 was powered by 2-man M9V4046 supercharged 4-stroke, 9-cylinder diesel engines for surface propulsion and 2 Siemens Schuckert 2 GU345/34 double-acting electric motors for submerged propulsion. She had 2 shafts and 2 192 meters 6 feet propellers. The boat had 48 crew. U-530 was one of the few U-boats that was fitted with a FU-MO61 Hohentuil radar transmitter. It was installed on the starboard side of the conning tower. U-530 was fixed with the FU-MV-26 Tunis antenna. The FU-MV-26 Tunis combined the FU-MV-24 Fliege and FU-MV-25 Cuba 2 antennas. It could be mounted in either a direction finder antenna loop or separately on the bridge. She served with the 4th U-boat flotilla while training, then the 10th flotilla from March 1, 1943 to September 30, 1944, and the 33rd flotilla from October 1, 1944 to May 8, 1945. U-530 completed 7 war patrols, sinking 2 ships totaling 12,063 gross register tons (GRT), and damaging another of 10,195 GRT. She surrendered in Mar del Plata, Buenos Aires Province, Argentina, on July 10, 1945. The submarine left Kiel on her first patrol on February 20, 1943. Her route to the Atlantic took her through the gap between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. On March 9, she sank the Swedish ship Milos in mid-Atlantic, at a point roughly equidistant from the southern tip of Greenland, Iceland, and northwest Scotland. She also sank the American Sunoil on April 5. After the tanker had already been hit by U-563, she then made her way to the port of Lorient in occupied France, arriving on April 22. These 3 forays were relatively uneventful, apart from her home port being moved to Bordeaux, and then La Pallas. Her 5th patrol took her to the Caribbean Sea, where she attacked and damaged the American tanker Chapultepec on December 26, 1943. She was forced to return to France when she was rammed by the tanker Esso Buffalo on December 29. She arrived at Lorient on February 22, 1944. For her 6th sortie, U-530 departed Lorient on May 22, 1944, ultimately for operations in the Trinidad area. On her outward voyage, she was to rendezvous with the I-52 and supply the larger boat with a Naxos radar detector, a radar operator, and a German navigator to help I-52 complete her journey. The 2 submarines rendezvoused on June 23 in mid-Atlantic, 850 nmi, 1,570 kilometers, 980 miles, west of the Cape Verde Islands. The Allies had been informed of the rendezvous and directed the escort carrier Bogue CV-9 to the scene. Her aircraft managed to sink I-52 with an acoustic torpedo. U-530 returned to base, this time Flensburg, after 133 days at sea. A short journey from Kiel to Horten Naval Base in southern Norway on from 19 to February 23 was her recorded next move, but it did not count as a patrol. U-530 departed Horton on March 3, 1945 to operate off New York, operating as close as 2 or 3 miles off Long Island. On about May 4, the submarine sighted a convoy and attacked with 3 torpedoes. 2 missed while the third had a battery explosion and did not leave the tube. U-530 attacked a second convoy May 6 with 5 torpedoes and a third the next day with 2 more, all of which missed when Germany surrendered on May 8. U-530 was reputedly 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, east-northeast of Puerto Rico. Germany ordered its U-boats to surrender at the nearest United Nations port, but the captain of U-530, Oberleutnant Otto Wermuth, said he thought this was an enemy trick. He headed for Argentina, thinking his crew would receive better treatment there, as had many fleeing Nazis, unaware that the country had also declared war on Germany. The crew dumped the 5 remaining torpedoes, anti-aircraft gun ammunition, secret books, and the ship's log overboard. The submarine passed east of Bermuda, reputedly crossing the equator in mid-June 1945. Wermuth said he thought about surrendering at Miramar, Buenos Aires, prior to proceeding to Mar del Plata. U-530 finally surrendered to the Argentine Navy on July 10, 1945. Wermuth was unspecific about routes used and could not explain why it had taken 2 months to reach the port, why the crew had no identification, or why they had sunk the ship's log and deck gun. Wermuth stated that the U-boat had transported no people or treasure prior to its surrender, and that he did not know of any other submarines coming to Argentina. The Argentine Ministry of the Navy issued an official communiqué stating that U-530 did not sink the Brazilian cruiser Bahia, as suspected by one Brazilian admiral, that U-530 had landed no one on the coast of Argentina before surrendering, and that no high-ranking officials were aboard. The crew was interned and transferred, along with the boat, to the United States. The submarine was sunk as a target on November 28, 1947 by a torpedo from American submarine USS Toro. Another Brazilian admiral suspected that U-530 had come from Japan. U-977, which surrendered at Mar del Plata on August 17, 1945, its papers intact, was also accused of sinking Bahia. But an inquiry eventually found that the cruiser had been sunk due to a gunnery accident during drills. Additionally, by July 23, 1945, an Argentine reporter claimed that he had seen a Buenos Aires provincial police report implying that a submarine had surfaced off the Argentine coast and landed a high-ranking officer and a civilian who might have been the disguised Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun, both somehow still alive. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation similarly documented a lead claiming that a self-proclaimed Argentine refugee said he had met Hitler upon his arrival in one of 2 U-boats that supposedly surfaced at the tip of Waltz Peninsula in May 1945.